So we're here with Dennis, and Dennis is a founding member, charter member of the Folsom Lake Rotary Club. Dennis, can you tell us your name and where you're from?
Dennis Metzler. I was born and raised in Fresno, California, and over the years I've been in 4 different Rotary clubs.
Cool.
Folsom Lake being the last.
Okay. And and you're a veteran, right? You've served in the
Yes,
military?
I was in the United States Navy.
Okay, wonderful. Awesome.
In an attack squadron in Vietnam.
Okay. And so Folsom Lake Rotary Club, you were a charter member, so can you tell us a little bit about how you were involved with that and what happened?
Well, that's a long story, but I'll make it short.
Okay.
I was a member of Orangevale Rotary at that time, along with a fellow named Russ Reams. Russ Reams owned the Orangevale Coffee Shop. And at that time, there were 2 Rotary clubs. There was a Rotary Club of Folsom, the big Rotary Club, and there was Historic Folsom, which was a new club only about 4 years old at that time. But they both met on Thursdays, one at 7 o'clock in the morning, one at 7 o'clock at night. So people didn't have a choice. If you had a family, it was very difficult for you to, especially if they were in school, to get the kids off to school and go to Rotary. Or if you were a father and you had kids in ball or something like this, you missed a lot of Rotary. So there was no Rotary Club and people didn't have a choice. So at that time, Russ and I got together and he said, let's form a noon club. Well, Folsom Lake initially met on Wednesdays. And I actually made 148 cold call interviews of people in Folsom.
Wow.
And at that time, I was able to round up 6. We sent out an article in the Folsom Telegraph saying we're forming a new club, and we got 2 people to come to our meetings that we were having at that time. And they decided to join, and Russ picked up, I think, 4 or 5 more. And so we initially, after 14 months of work, we were able to charter the club on, it's July the 10th of 2010.
Okay.
It was chartered with 24 members.
Wow.
So I'm a charter member because I stayed in the club, helped start it. But I've been in Rotary for, next year will be 50 years.
Wow.
I initially started my Rotary membership in Los Banos, California. I was a district manager there, working for PG&E. Was able to move back to the Bay Area, and I joined, the fellow that I relieved in Sacramento at that time, working for PG&E. I relieved him. He said, I'm going to take you to lunch today. So we went to lunch. It happened to be a Rotary Club. And that's where I got involved deeply in Rotary. I was a member of that club for over 16 years, retired. Then I went to the Rotary Club of Orangevale, where I was a member for about 17 years. I'm still a honorary member of that club. And then Russ and I formed Folsom Lake Rotary, and I've been in Folsom Lake Rotary since 2010.
So when you think about your Rotary experience, I hear some Rotarians say things like, I joined Rotary, but I wasn't a real Rotarian until there's usually some kind of event or something that happens.
Yes, there's always a key.
There's something that happens. So what is it for you that happened in Rotary?
Well, as I say, I was taken to Rotary for lunch, and I was told by my predecessor, you will attend this club every week. At that time, corporations were paying memberships for their individuals to be in clubs. So, I'll eat lunch, have to eat lunch anyway, so I'll join. Well, he told me, you will join. So I was there, and I was there only about, I guess, a year. And that club, it was a big club. It was in the 40s at that time, membership. And they immediately got you involved in the club. And that's where it started. And I got involved with youth. Well, we had a scholarship program for a young man going to one of the high schools. He had cancer, so we sponsored him, and I got involved that way. That was my beginning in Rotary. What really did it was after 4 years, they all of a sudden decided, Dennis, you'd make a good president. And I had been through the foundation avenue and I'd been through youth and things like this. So, well, yeah, I can do that. I had time at that time. My children at that time were grown. They were both in high school. So I had time. Well, the one thing about Rotary that I enjoyed immediately was fellowship. Immediately you join a club and you fit in. If you fit in, you get involved. And if you get involved, you'll stay in Rotary. I liked it because I very much enjoy community service. I like giving back to the community. I've always done that. It's been something that, I don't know, I just do. My kids were at that time, they were kind of grown. And so I had time.
Right.
Time and fellowship probably were the two big reasons I stayed in Rotary.
Right. Yeah, we just did a survey, as you know, for our club, and the survey results, one of the questions was, why do you stay in Rotary? Because sometimes the reason people join and the reason they stay are different reasons. And 100% of the people that replied said community service was the most important thing. And then the second was to have fun.
Have fun and fellowship, that's it. That's
right.
it.
Exactly. Is there any experiences, have you been on any international experiences, trips, or what are some of the projects you've been involved
I've been
in?
to the international conference in Toronto.
Okay.
That was very exciting. I was there with 23,000 other Rotarians from all over the world. And they had, I don't know if they still have it, but they had a breakfast called the California Breakfast. You had to sign up for this. Well, to sit down with over 2,000 other Rotarians and have breakfast, and at our table there was an architect there from South Africa, and he and his wife were in full garb, beautiful outfits they had on. There was an engineer from England. There was a fellow from Mexico, and there was a German family. So communications at the table was a little difficult, but by the time the meal ended, we were all friends.
Yeah.
And it was exciting to be there amongst all those Rotarians. So that was one of the highlights. I did that about my sixth or seventh year in Rotary, and I've always wanted to go back, but there's always been a reason that I haven't.
Yeah. And I think when you and I were talking on the phone, you mentioned something about, and we were discussing women in Rotary. And women in Rotary, I don't remember what year it was, but you mentioned...
It was 1985.
Okay.
1985, I was a member of I was a member of South Sacramento Rotary.
Okay.
And they proposed women in Rotary. Well, I was working, and I had 17 employees working for me, of which 4 were women. And basically, these employees pretty much all did the same type of work. We were in the marketing department. And I saw a problem there that some of the women were doing the same jobs as some of the guys that had been there a while. And they were doing a better job, yet they were not being paid equally. And to me, working for PG&E at that time, I thought that was unfair. So being a supervisor, and each year as evaluations came up for employees, I start rating the women much higher than some of the guys, so that their pay would increase, maybe not exactly to what the men were making, but certainly get them closer to what the guys were making.
Right.
And that became an incentive for them to even work harder.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the guys looked around and says, you know, they all had goals. And on the, being in the Navy, we were always being tested, and everything was visual, you know, how many landings people made and what have you, how many good, how many bad. Well, all of a sudden, they were outselling the men. And they got the word fast that, hey, what are you doing that I'm not doing? And I've been here longer than you.
Right.
Well, in 1985, they proposed women for Rotary. And at that time, I was what was called a zone rep, which today is called a governor's assistant. And I had 7 clubs that I would go and visit each year and collect money for them. We collected money at that time to pay for the speech program that was then conducted at the district conference. And so I got to meet a lot of Rotarians in different clubs, primarily those in the south part of our area. The fellow I worked for was named Carl Amundsen. He was an old timer. He worked for, or he was a member of next door. What's south of Elk Grove?
Folsom?
He was a member of Elk Grove Rotary.
Okay.
And he had been a past president, well liked by the club and what have you. He was proposed for district governor. And the team that asked him to come in and interview, they all sat down, said hello, had coffee together. First question was, Carl, what do you think about women in Rotary? And his answer was, women belong to stay at home. And the interviewees looked at him and said, Paul, it's been nice interviewing you. Thank you very much. And within a year, Paul was out of Rotary.
Right.
The way of Rotary, look at today, we have an international woman as a president.
Right. Is that the first time, right?
Very first time.
Right.
She was the very first time to be, on the board of Rotary.
Right. So what kind of difference have you seen in Rotary with women being in Rotary now?
The women that I've seen in Rotary get involved immediately, very much so. It doesn't take long for them to become leaders. They see a lot of the old timers doing the same old thing year after year. They don't want that. They want things new. They want to do it a new way. And in many ways, it's a better way. Mm-hmm. Look at our Bet on Rotary this year.
Right.
We hadn't had Bet on Rotary for 2 years. And Dina picked it up. It was the best Bet on Rotary we've ever had.
Yeah.
Why? Because she worked at it.
Right.
And she got the people to work at it.
Right.
She got people to buy in. The women gravitate to each other. And they exchange ideas that men would never come up with. But they do.
Right. If you think about your time in Rotary, and this doesn't just apply to Folsom Lake, but over all the years you've been in Rotary, and you did share the one youth project, but if there's one project that had the most emotional impact on you, what was that project, and why did it have an impact on you?
I think probably the one project that we did was that Feed the Hungry.
Mm-hmm.
We were involved with it. We didn't have it during the pandemic years, but prior to that time, we were gangbusters. Our club, as well as the district, was just, we went whole hog into that project. Mm-hmm. Getting together, I would say probably several hundred, 150 to 200 individuals packing lunches for people you're never gonna know, and good food they can live on. So that was I think one of the projects I very much enjoyed. I also liked big work projects. Orangevale took on the construction of a girls softball field at Casa Roble High School, and it took us almost 18 months. I mean, this was just a dirt area in the back lot that we put together a first-class girls softball field that only the women can use.
Right.
And it's nicer than what the guys have. It equals, if not better, than the boys' hardball field.
Right.
A lot of effort went into it. Total, probably over $100,000 was
Wow.
spent on that.
That's a lot.
We had to collect that kind of money. We had to, find it. We had to donate club funds to it. But it was sweat labor that did it. And to be out there every Saturday for a year and a half to get it built.
Must feel good to drive by that once in a while and just kind of look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
You should. There's a nice sign on it too.
Yeah.
And what is Rotary? Well, it's not a bunch of old guys sitting around, having coffee anymore, collecting money. We're not there to reach in your pocket. You may have to, or you may want to,
Right.
but that's not Rotary.
Right.
Rotary is basically getting involved, and then having the fellowship of working with others on projects to make this a better community.
Right.